Hey guys, it's Hasio. So in this video, this is going to be my first installment of my Ryu Basics 101 series. And the goal of these videos is to teach new and even returning players solid basics and fundamentals to becoming a better Street Fighter V player. So in our first video, we're going to be going over character control. And you may be thinking, really, like a video on character control? And yeah, you got it. We're going to be doing a video on character control. I mean, so for new players, I think this is this is definitely heavily overlooked, and is one of the major parts of Street Fighter, if any fighting game, really. I mean, without moving your character, I mean, you can throw all the punches and kicks and mash everything you want, but you're not gonna get the win without moving your character, right? So it's very important to have complete control of your character, and your direct actions or your direct inputs need to reflect on the screen to what your character's doing, right? So anyway, so let's get into this, and we're going to be talking about four things here. We're going to be talking about moving, jumping, blocking, and dashing, right? So those are the four topics we're going to tackle in this. So let's talk about moving. So obviously, pretty straightforward stuff. We are literally just moving forward, moving back. Those are your two move options. You want to make sure that your moves are fluid. You don't want to make sure you're like jerking. You can do this, that's fine, but the end of the day is like when you're trying to control space in Street Fighter, and we'll be talking about spacing and footsies and stuff like that later on in the series. But just to get an understanding is you don't want to be doing this, right? You don't really have much control of your character by doing that, right? You want to control your character nicely, do nice fluid motions, right? So those are your movements, motions of going forward and back, right? So let's talk about jumping now. So first things first out of the bat is try to limit your jumping in Street Fighter. There's definitely more jumping in Street Fighter 5 than in the previous series, and I think because everyone's still trying to get a feel for the game. But you'll notice that jumping is still bad. I mean, especially when you face experienced players. There's lots of ways to anti-air in this game. Just a easy down fierce will get whoever it is out of the air, right? Uppercut will get you out of the air, right? So you'll notice that if you jump in an opponent and they uppercut you, it's probably not a good idea. Or if they just like down fierce you, it's probably not a good idea to go in for another jump, because you know what's going to happen next, right? You're going to be in the same situation. So try to keep your jumping limited, and I probably will speak in another later in the series when you should jump, probably good ideas for jumping, but that's probably really late in the series when we talk about the mind games, mixing ups and whatnot. So anyways, so limit jumping. So obviously there are three type of jumps in this game. There's your neutral jump, you got your forward jump, and you got your back jump, right? So first things first, don't back jump. You should never be jumping back ever in this game. There should be never a reason why you're jumping back. The reason why you're jumping back is bad is because you're going to put yourself closer and closer to the corner, and Ken will progressively push up on you. And then once you get in a corner, you're very limited with your options, right? So jumping back is bad. Try to not jump back at all. So then you got your neutral jumps. Now neutral jumps can be used for many different things, primarily tricky setups. If you through your opponent and they think you're gonna throw back, you can jump up, they'll miss, they'll whiff, you can punish them afterwards, right? So anyways, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So next is going to be forward jumping. So forward jumping, again, we talked about this. You don't want to forward jump, or you want to limit your forward jump movement because they could anti-air you. Now, if you are a beginner, most likely there are good chances you'll be facing newer players in Street Fighter. So there's going to be lots of jumping happening in the game, right? So I'm not saying you can't jump. You definitely can jump. Jumping will, if you land your first attack, can lead into more damage combos. So jumping forward is good if your opponent can't anti-air. Jumping forward is bad if your opponent can anti-air. So anyways, take it as a learning experience. You got to fill each player that you fight in the game. Now, practice. Now, you're saying, what do you mean practice? For example, when I first got my fight stick, I had an issue for some reason. I don't know why, forward jumping. For the life of me, every time I tried to forward jump, I was doing this. And in a match, that's not good. Like if I want to forward jump, and I'm jumping up, that's not good. And that was causing me a lot of issues. So if you don't have complete control over your character in a match, you're going to cause a lot of issues. You're going to cause yourself stress, and you're most likely to lose the match. So the main thing is, if you're having issues jumping back, jumping forward, having control over your character, then you want to make sure you have those motions down. So just getting that out of the way. Next thing, we're going to be talking about blocking. So there's two ways to block in this game. There's a high block and a low block. So let's get into this. Here, I'll set the record option. So let's talk about high blocking first. All right, so that's it here. So, all right, so I'm gonna knock Ken down, and he's gonna try to jab me. So and I'm gonna block back. And there's a block. So there's two ways to block. So that's a high block, right? So you're blocking anything that's standing, right? So any type of normal hit standing, you'll block high, right? Missed that block. All right. So now you also can low block as well. So low block will also block standing attacks. So let's do this. So I'm gonna block low, and to block low is obviously down back. So I'm gonna sweep him again, and that blocks as well. So blocking is extremely important in this game. You want to make sure that every time you attack your opponent, all right, you want to have a habit. Like if I'm gonna trip him, right, you want to be into a habit where you're always holding down back. So even if you're just doing I'm holding down back, because if he blocks that, there is a chance he could punish me. Now, relatively, it's pretty safe from this distance. But if I'm like really close to him here, he can actually punish me on the block. So you want to have a habit of holding down back in the case that if you do land or miss or whatever the case is, you're always in a blocking state where in case that you're going to be prepared, right? You don't want to be like this and then just kind of like and then you're going to eat it, right? So you want to make sure that you're always, after each attack, get in the habit of getting into a block state, right? You always want to be making sure you're blocking. Defense is like key in this game. I think there's a lot of people in this game that they're just holding their character neutral and idle. They're not really in block state or not anticipating anything. They're kind of just like eating fireballs across the screen. Like Ken won't block that, right? But like I've seen a lot of this. So you want to get into a habit of constantly trying to block, and down back is your friend. You always want to make sure you're going to be blocking low. That will be your best defensive game. Now, obviously, blocking down low won't stop a jump in attack, right? So if you see a jump in attack, you have to block high, right? So if he's jumping back, you gotta block high, right? If he's not jumping, if he's jumping forward at you, you gotta make sure you jump high. So let's restart this over here. All right, now that we talked about blocking, let's talk about dashing here. So that's the last movement in the game, really. It's 2 forward to dash forward, 2 back to dash back. And it's, I guess you can consider it an advanced movement tactic. It's not really that useful in Street Fighter V. It was pretty big in Street Fighter 4. So I wouldn't stress too much about it. I'll go over dashing in another video of mine where we could talk about like mix up my games and like just general stuff and tips and tricks and how you can use Ryu's dash to your advantage. He definitely has a good dash in the game. It's not the best in the game, but it's definitely one of the better ones for sure. So practice it. It allows you to get out of situations if you want to give yourself a little bit more space, or if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, you can dash in. But I wouldn't stress too much about it, guys. So that's pretty much it for the character control. The next video in the series is going to be about special moves. I have a really good way of how I'm going to show people how to execute special moves. Fireballs, uppercuts, hurricane kicks, tatsus, whatever you want to call it. Whether you're using a controller or whether you're using a fight stick, whether you're using an analog stick on the controller, I'm going to show you exactly how to execute these special moves. I know a lot of people, especially with fight sticks, have issues executing an uppercut or fireball or whatever the case is. So stay tuned for that video. I think it's going to be really helpful for a lot of new people, especially with people with fight sticks. But it's the same movement, across the board from, like I said, controller to arcade stick. Anyways, guys, so that's pretty much it for the video. If you like this video, drop a like down below. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to do that. I definitely read them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, that really helps me a lot. Do that. That'd be great. And thanks a lot, guys. Take it easy.